me in it. I'm going to have my wife do most of that. Because more of me is too much for the plants. They just don't like me. All right, anyway, with that being said, we're going to shift gears right now and meet a young lady who is here to talk about her book. Her name's Dr. Shawnise Carter, and she is in studio right now, very interested and anxious to meet her for the first time. So with that being said, we're just going to start off and say good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. You got a book that we're going to talk about in just a minute, but as always, when I have the pleasure of meeting talented people for the first time, I like to hear a little about them. So give us a little background. Where were you born? And if you were born here, you have to say what high school you went to.
Okay, so I was born outside of Chicago, suburbs of Chicago.
Nice. Where?
So I went to Hillcrest.
Okay.
Hazelcrest is where I'm from.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and then after, of course, graduating high school, what'd you do?
I went to Tennessee State University.
TSU.
So HBCU.
Yeah, HBCU. Yeah, TSU. How'd you like that? Because a couple of my best friends went down there. I used to go to Nashville. I went to HBCUs, two of them, Hampton and Tuskegee.
Okay.
But I always was up in Nashville, hanging out at TSU, and there are a lot of people from this area go to TSU.
Yes.
Yeah. How often do you get there for homecoming?
I just went this past year. but before that, I hadn't been in like years, over a decade.
Yeah.
But yes, I did make my way down there this past homecoming
Well,
and had a wonderful time.
I'm sure you did, because you all are thick. I mean, everybody goes to TSU's homecoming.
Yes.
And so obviously after college, what profession did you get into?
Speech pathology.
Okay, that's kind of interesting in itself. You would work with a lot of kids, I assume.
Yes, kids and adults. I worked across the age span.
Yeah. Did you work for a hospital group or something like that?
Yes, I worked in Indiana, actually. I did early education, well, it's called early intervention for 0 to 3 years of age.
Yeah.
So I did that for a while, and I went across the border, so it's just too easy to get dually licensed.
Right,
I was licensed in Illinois and Indiana, saw kids in their home from 0 to 3. I had a private practice for a number of years in Matson and in Olympia Field, Illinois.
Olympia Field.
Mm-hmm.
So you were moving around, weren't you?
Yes, I worked in a skilled nursing facility, and I was a rehab manager for a while. And then I went back and got my clinical doctorate in speech pathology. And so I'm a research manager, and I'm also starting a home care business here in Northwest Indiana. Well,
congratulations real quick on the speech pathology, because I think that that's a very interesting field. It really is. We don't really talk about it enough.
Yes.
But I want to ask you this. Do you find yourself in particular working from that 0 to 3 age range where you came across, obviously I would assume you're a little versed in autism and that kind of spectrum and detecting? Yes. Because I would think that they would cross over.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Work with children with autism, Down syndrome, developmental delays, and children who are just not talking.
Right, because I would assume that you would be one of the, in particular for a family that's having their first child and has a new child, you would be one of the first responders, as it were, when they're looking at some developmental issues, the child's not necessarily speaking and things like that. They come and go to you in your expertise.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay, interesting. Now you are a newly published author. I don't know if this is your first book, is it?
It is.
It's your first book, and it's titled, what is it called?
It's called My Hero Story, God's Glory, How to Overcome Betrayal, Delay, and Loss.
Whoa, this sounds like a Jackie Collins novel. What's this all about? But anyway, so first of all, let's get into this, and then we'll get the inspiration behind it. Tell us a little bit about the story without giving away all the story.
Yeah, so I think that there are a lot of things that I've gone through just being in business on my own, just accomplishing my own personal goals, going for my doctorate, and there were challenges with that, and just all kinds of things where it seemed like the more ambitious I was, the more I ran into obstacles or people trying to stop me from obtaining my goals. And so this is just about the lessons that I learned, because everyone goes through things in life. So, my stories are not so, magnificent that no one else has gone through something similar. But the main thing that I wanted to get across my message is what you learn from going through those things. If you go through betrayal, if you go through delays, if you have loss in your life and you don't learn anything from it, then that is an issue.
Right.
You know,
right.
So really it's just focusing on the aftermath. How do I repair myself? How do I heal? How do I move forward? And how do I still go towards those goals?
Yeah. So obviously this book is somewhat autobiographical, but I want to ask you, was it kind of cathartic? Was it therapeutic for you to go out here and kind of go through those feelings again and things like that? Because you're identifying things like betrayal, which is a very harsh thing to go through. And then, as you talk about all these other obstacles, so I'm sure that when you're sitting down, putting pen to paper, you had to go back and relive those thoughts and feel those feelings again.
I did.
And kind of put it out there, look at it and say, you know what, I'm done with it.
Mm-hmm. The emotions were still very raw.
Right.
I hadn't visited some of these situations in years because, I just moved past, keep going. And to dig it up and to relive that situation, it was like I was there all over again.
Right.
I really did put my heart into this. I cried. I questioned myself. Am I healed? Am I, ready to move past it? But I think that is the point, and I talk about journaling a lot throughout my book and just how important that is, because even in those situations, I felt that I didn't respond the way that I would have wanted to respond.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times I was just shocked that it was even happening, so I didn't use my voice, It was just that I was in a state of shock for a long time. So for me, writing this book was my response.
Yeah.
It was what I wanted to say during the time, what I've learned after moving past it, and then ultimately just giving other people tools to help them through some similar situations.
No, I love it, and I love the fact that because there is, we've been talking about mental health on the show as well, and this is a very healthy way of dealing with it, and I think that your book will be a valued tool to not just women, I think men who can sit back and just kind of look and see what they're, because we're all going through, we all have to navigate. And so let me ask you this, as you kind of, without giving everything in your book away, we want people to purchase it, of course, but as you kind of sat back and you looked at the journey that you went through and as you try to help others, I want to ask you this because, as I kind of look back on certain situations that I've gone through in my life, you kind of look back and you're like, you know what? I have to stop allowing myself to give people an opportunity to have this much power over me. I'm really in control of the situation. I can kind of control, I'm not going to say it doesn't affect me, but it doesn't have to get kind of overboard and things like that. When that person is walking off into the sunset doing what he or she's going to do, and I'm sitting over here brewing over some stuff, I've given away too much power. I gotta regain that power back and just kind of go about my life with the stars.
Yes, and that was the thing for me. It was praying. It was journaling. It was talking to other people. But you're absolutely right. People wrong you and they move on.
They move on.
Yeah, almost without a conscience.
Yeah,
know? And so if you allow it to fester, then it will make you bitter.
Yeah.
And I didn't get to that point. But some people do
get
to that point because you relive the situation over and over again because you're unsuspecting. I know for me, I don't operate in that way. I operate in integrity, so I didn't expect anything different, from people that I was doing business with or people that I engaged with.
Right.
And so I think that what catches people off guard is that you don't anticipate something like this to happen.
Right.
So now that it has happened, what do you do? How do you move forward?
Yeah. And as I said, I think this book is a valuable tool. I want to ask you kind of, I guess this is in your book, but it kind of probably relates to, as you said, you're an entrepreneur, you have your own business and things like that. And, even though we're in the 21st century and we talk about this kind of stuff on the show, is, even though we're in the 21st century, we're advancing things like that, there's still some work to be done as it relates to women business owners, in particular women minority business owners, because while people might accept you operating in a certain range at first, God forbid you try to expand on your success. Then you're getting a little too cute. And then come the obstacles that are put out here and to see if you can kind of overcome. And a lot of times these things are meant to discourage. And and obviously one of the things that, I kind of push, and I learned this from a TEDx Gary that my wife event that my wife and I threw. It was a TEDx women event. And the theme that the women were speaking on was failure. And I had never really looked at life like that, but now it's my mantra. I encourage young people and people to go out here and fail because you find out what you're made of, first of all, and it gives you ultimate confidence when you can look back and be like, guess what? I got through that. I'm a pretty tight dude. And going forward. And so, kind of tell us about that journey about being this business. I mean, you're over here, you're knocking down stuff all the time. You're going, you're getting your doctorate, you're opening this clinic, you're working here, you're consulting there. And I assume that is challenging on relationships.
Yes. Yes, and like she said, I have 5 children.
And you got 5. Oh my goodness. How you do that?
So I just wanted to mention something about what you said about failures.
Yes.
So right in my introduction in my book, that's the thing that I mentioned. So I said, please understand that overcoming was not a quick process. I have had a lot of failures in life. For almost every aspiration I've had, there was an equal amount of failure.
Yes.
That indicates that my fear level was shallow, yet my expectation for success was very high.
Right.
And then I just said that I've learned more from my failures, from failing, than I have from succeeding.
That's when, as I said, it took me sitting, watching these wonderful women tell each of their stories. And, you think back to growing up, my father, my mother trying to pick me up and encouraging me, but I had never encapsulated it into, hey, failure is absolutely cool. I mean, because when you come on the other side, you're a better person for it.
Yes.
But you know more from failure than you do when things are easy and handed to you, because you'll never know how you stack up when things just kind of come easy. It's just always expected. And then when that one failure does happen, which everybody goes through it, you're absolutely crushed and you're devastated. But those people that tend to be the more successful that we put up here, they failed immensely all the way up there. So,
my goal was to desensitize people to the word failure.
Yes.
Because there's so much shame that's associated with that. At least for me, once my business closed, I felt like a failure.
Right.
And I had to deal with that. I had to go through, a state of just not really depression, but isolation.
Right.
I didn't want to be near people. I felt like everyone was there to cheer me on. And so I felt like as many people that were there to see me and have my grand opening, not all of these people see my failure.
Right.
And so for me, I had to take away the shame that was associated with the word failure and to really pick it apart and go through mentally, what does that look like? What does it do to you?
Yeah.
So I asked a lot of self-reflection questions at the end of each chapter, just to get people to be able to analyze and see where they are. What did this situation do to you? Because like I said, so many people just keep moving.
They keep moving.
They move forward and they just bury it under the rug. And then it comes up, out of nowhere because now it becomes a trigger.
Right.
And so it's just dealing with those emotions mentally, physically, spiritually, and then taking the time that you need. So I do talk about mental health here as well. And then just repairing yourself and getting back to that process of, okay, it wasn't all bad.
It wasn't.
Here is what I can say that I've learned. This is what would make me a better entrepreneur because I've been through this.
Right.
And it's really just about not making the same mistakes again. Even trusting people. That was a mistake.
No, and you know what? Because I was going to come to people because, as I said, I view things 180 degrees differently now, and even the situations I'm sure you probably haven't encountered, and that is that, the one thing that I found out about people, and I try to make sure that I'm not that person, is that there are people out there that, for whatever reason, they're not doers. And so when they see somebody that kind of goes out here, has a little bit of confidence, because you have to have some confidence to bet on yourself. I don't think it's arrogance. I think it's a quiet confidence, and it's necessary. And so you go out here and you're out here doing stuff, and they're just people out here that are just waiting for the shoe to drop.
Yes.
And they won't admit it. They can't, sometimes they don't even know it themselves that kind of gets them going. But when they see that person folds or has a little, obstacle happen, they're just kind of like, see, I told you it wouldn't work. I told you, I knew that it couldn't happen. And it's just about shutting down the noise from people like that and constantly believing in yourself, because that's how the game works. When you believe in yourself, that taps into that magic force.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I talk about faith a lot. Faith in God, definitely, and also believing in yourself.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We're talking with a wonderful young lady who is the author of a book. Once again, tell us about that book again. Tell us the title, My Hero, My Story.
My Hero Story, God's Glory, How to Overcome Betrayal, Delay, and Loss.
Exactly. Her name is, I want to make sure I pronounce her name, Shawnise?
Yes.
Carter.
Shawnise Carter.
Carter. She is a doctor, by the way, in speech pathology.
Yes.
Yeah, so she's a smart person as well as a very sensitive person who has really kind of chronicled her journey into a book. I'm going to get into the process. And so, as you talk about, you've been a very busy woman, obviously. Now you throw the 5 kids in it, which Chelsea just introduced. And it's just it makes it more amazing that you even had time to sit around and try to go out here and write a dissertation on anything.
It was all over again, a dissertation.
Oh my goodness. And so, what is that like? Because, I'm no Jennifer Hudson or Oprah, but this is a talk show, and I'm sure a lot of women out here would love to understand, how do you juggle a career in motherhood? That is the $1 million question that even still being asked in 2024.
I don't know that I have the exact recipe. I can say that I have a husband who is very supportive.
There you go.
Both of us work remotely, which allows us flexibility.
There you go. Yes.
In our children's lives and run them back and forth to all of their extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
And then just, family.
Right.
Always, it takes a village. So we do have our village, and we have people who step in and help us when we need it. But
And so does it, I would assume that, absolutely. And so what about compartmentalization? What I mean by that is, it would seem that in you and your husband's lives, having a schedule is absolutely essential. It's not, you can't allow for a lot of randomness and sitting around. Time has to be accounted for. So how important is that? First of all, what are the age ranges of your kids?
So 9, 12, 17, I have another 17-year-old, and 19.
Wow. So you got some kids that are on their way out, but you still got some kids in there. And so it's just a lot of dynamics going on.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, yes. So going back to scheduling, it is very essential. We are going in so many different directions.
Yeah.
So, the daytime hours dedicated to work, I do not take my work beyond my work hours.
I hear you.
Even though I work from home, I really do have like a hard cutoff time.
You shut it down.
Yes, when it comes to work.
Yeah.
And then, I am guilty of quickly responding back to a message, if I can answer it really quickly. But for me, I need to just completely decompress, and I need to put down work, and that includes the weekend.
Right.
So, now that is not the same for my business that I'm starting.
Right.
So my home care business in the evenings, whenever I have the time, then, and as well as the weekends, then I work on that.
Right.
And so, it's just about a schedule. Okay, who has this on what day? Where do you need to be? And we just work it out from there. So
now,
it's constantly juggling.
See, let me ask you this. This is once again, I'm putting my Oprah hat on, because it as I sit here and I kind of think about it, this is a lot, because, okay, so now you have the hard cutoff of your work, but there's still 2 other hats that you have to wear. One is obviously the mother. Yes. You got the niece, but you're also a life companion. You got a husband. How do you kind of fit that in? Because both of you all need time for each other. You don't want to kind of just pass each other in the hallway and just wave, hey, how you doing? See you later, and keep it moving. You got to maintain this relationship and still give your kids what they need, and 2 attentive parents.
Right. So we both do work from home. So we talk to each other throughout the day, which is really, that's really a blessing. I don't think either one of us take that for granted.
Right.
That we can just talk to each other. I can have a concern, and I'll just go in the next room and,
where he
talk
is.
to him. Yeah. He is very level-headed, so right away he'll give me a different perspective. But also we laugh, a lot throughout the day.
Right.
And just having his companionship. And then there are times when I'll schedule a lunch and we may go out to lunch.
Right, just deliberate time together.
So we get those times, and I think that is a luxury that people who work, don't work from home but work at an office and have to go somewhere to work don't have.
They don't have that.
So we do get that time, and
it can get away from you quickly, I'd assume. I don't have any kids, but it just, as you said, if you're working and you're going to a cubicle, or you're going to wherever you work, and obviously you're trying to take care of your career and trying to do that, and be a parent, sometimes it can get away from you as far as your relationship, because you might get a call from your significant other and say, hey, well, Johnny's got soccer practice, and all you're thinking about is just picking Johnny up from soccer practice and things like that. And by the time maybe you get home, your spouse might be already asleep, or maybe they're not. And so next thing you know, it's been maybe a week and a half. You really all haven't even talked.
Right. Yeah, so that doesn't really happen with us.
Yeah,
like
good.
We do talk daily since we are both at home.
Right.
When the children are away.
So that's like going on vacation, isn't
it? Exactly. The kids are at school, so it's like, I actually have time to think and can carry on the conversation or just laugh. Like I said, we laugh a lot.
Well, as I said, I want to get into the process, okay? So at what point in time did you decide that it's time to put pen to paper?
It has always been in the back of my mind.
About writing a book?
I didn't know what it would be about, what the topic would be about, but I knew that just because I am a compassionate person, I think, I like helping people, being a speech pathologist, caring and looking out for others, and then people come to me for advice all the time.
Right.
Well, first of all, I think that that's interesting, because I'm like, well, what makes you think I have the answers?
Nobody wants to hear that, Dr. Carter.
Yeah, you must see something in me that I don't see.
Right.
And so, really...
Well, you're an accomplished woman. And so it's just going to be a natural beacon for people to think you got the answers.
And that's, well...
No, but anyway, I'm just telling you, yeah, absolutely.
So, then I just started, like I said, there were certain things that I wrote down. I'm very goal oriented, so when it comes to like writing things down that I want to accomplish, I found out that was something that I guess a lot of people don't do. And so I just started looking at all of the things that I've gone through and how I handled the situation, not always the best at that time, and then I just said, okay, I have this over here, I have some goals over here, I have some advice over here, how can I make this into a book? And then I am a Christian, so like I would say maybe 10 years ago, or maybe 15 years ago, it was prophesied to me that I would write 3 books.
Wow.
Actually. Yeah. So the time came when I found this book coach and just had a few meetings with her, and I thought that she was phenomenal.
Right.
She was able to pull some things out of me. She was able to...
She helped you make an outline out and stuff.
Yeah, question me and make me go a little bit deeper. Okay, make the readers understand this. What do you need to include in here so that someone who does not know you can understand your story? And so she challenged me. And I had just finished my dissertation.
So you were right in the writing mode.
And I actually had to put it on pause. I started before I started my doctoral program.
Right.
And I put the book on pause probably all throughout that program. But then afterwards, it's like, okay, I'm kind of already in rhythm for writing.
Right,
so
I've been writing.
Just pick this back up.
Right.
And just start writing for myself. And so...
Now, give us an idea. As I said, I don't want you to give all the book away, but what's the obviously we know the theme, but what style is this? Kind of first person? Are you using a lot of, as I said, or is there a character, or how? What's the tone of the book?
It's first person.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about myself, and then I'm talking directly to the reader.
To the reader.
Yes. And so the way that I would summarize it, you talked about this a little bit earlier, but if you are a person that's a person of action, you're a go-getter. So sometimes those people tend to be impulsive. Yeah. I know for me, it's like if I have an idea, I'm on it.
Right.
And so I don't necessarily plan out everything else after that first step, but I know I'm quick to take that first step. Right. And so I think the way that I wrote this book is that, okay, you are an action seeker, or maybe not, and maybe you want to be more productive, and so you take that first step, and then what do you do after that? Right. So it goes through personally, what have you been through in your past? Who are you now? What haven't you dealt with? What could potentially stop you from pursuing your dreams? if you're not pursuing your dreams, what is in your way? And so it takes you through that. And then once you deal with yourself, because again, you got to help yourself first before you can be of service to anyone else.
Right.
Then it goes into, you know, what is your routine? What is your genetic makeup? What are you made of? You know, think back, not just you, but generations prior to you. For me, I looked back in my family history and saw on both sides of the families that I had entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I had people who owned businesses. My grandmother, she was a nurse, but she did hair in her basement.
Yeah, absolutely. You know?
So you guys talked about gardening in the earlier segment. She had a garden in her front yard.
Right.
I mean, so just all of these different things about just entrepreneurship
now,
and business. Let
me ask you this, because, you know, as we're sitting here talking, I'm kind of thinking, as we started this conversation, we were talking about the journey and failure. You know, one of the things that I remember hearing, and as I get older, and I find it to be true, and I heard somebody say this the other day. I want to ask you about your opinion about this. Is relationships. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that, you know, when you're young and you're going through it with your friends or whatever, your parents always try to let you know that as you get older, your friend circle gets a little thinner as you start to refine your friends. You might not have your childhood friends anymore. Your friends might be your college friends, or you might have friends that you bond with for work. But you don't run around with like 5 or 6 best friends or anything like that. You might have, just, if you're lucky, 1 or 2 good ones that you can trust, and then you got some associates that you run into other than that. How important was relationships in the story as you kind of look back on it?
Very important. I am blessed to have a few childhood best friends that we are still very close
Same
to
here.
This day. And then I did pick up a few more in college.
Yeah.
And we still talk really consistently. So, but no, my friend circle definitely has gotten smaller.
Right.
One of my friends says it's a lowercase o now.
Yeah.
And that's completely fine, you know, with me.
Be honest, it makes sense, because as you talk about, you know, in your book, I'm sure when you get to things like betrayal and all these other things, when you're out here, you don't have time for the man. You're a mom, you're a spouse, you're out here ambitious, you're worried about you don't have the time to, you know, waste time with monkey muck and things like that. So you start to refine yourself. It's nothing personal, but if people can't kind of move with you and things like that, then you just have to kind of put them in the space that they operate, and that is, hey, if I see you, I'm a wave, and maybe we'll have a cocktail or something at a big function. I'll wave at you, but I can't go out here and start answering your calls and devoting time to you, because you're taking away from my energy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then just simply because of time.
Yeah.
So for me, and with having 5 children, my time is very limited.
Yeah.
And so I do need to get away. I have, you know, my sister I'm very close
there
with.
You go.
My cousin I'm very close with. And we go out and we connect and we have girls' time, which is essential, because I like to be balanced.
Right.
But definitely, it doesn't bother me, and it's not, like you said, it is nothing personal.
Yeah.
You know, I will talk to you, we can chit chat, we can catch up, but it's just when you are just focused on goals, way you don't really have time to think about what other people are doing. You have to kind of have that tunnel vision if you want to get things accomplished.
Absolutely. And so now let's talk about this, the end phase. Obviously, you get the book done, you're starting to shop it around for a publisher. How'd that go?
So the book coach that I have, she has a publishing company.
There you go.
With her for publishing, and my book is.
So it's like having your own built-in editor too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she did the whole editing part and the deep dive and all of those different things.
And so the publishing house it's coming from, is it kind of faith-based, or how are you distributing the book?
Yes, so it is available on Amazon.
Of course.
It's available on Barnes & Noble. I have my book signing coming up, and then it's available on my website online, which I would recommend for people to do that. So because no one takes a cut out of that. So.
Right. Listen, I don't hate you for saying that. Absolutely. We support the artist on this show. So you perfectly go to her website. She can keep an accurate count of how the books are going out.
Yes.
And as you said, the artist and the author gets 100% of the funds. You don't have to pay that, quote, service fee.
Oh, yeah. It's a big chunk. Hefty service fee. Yeah.
And so, as you said, you could go onto these 3 different platforms. And Now, of course, is the part where you're on here. I'm sure you're going other places. You talk about book signing. This is the part of the sales of book, honey.
Yes.
Now you're doing the publicity. What's that like? Is it a little nervous?
It is a whole new world.
Right.
It is I did not realize. I thought that the challenge was getting the book out.
Oh no, that's just the beginning.
Getting it on paper, getting it published, and making it available. But no, this book promotion is just a whole new world that I had no knowledge of.
Because I've talked to people, and when you're out here promoting your stuff, obviously you're talking about yourself, and a lot of people sometimes feel very uncomfortable just kind of being out there talking about, themselves and things like that. So, I can just imagine it's a little nerve-wracking sometimes looking at yourself in the spotlight. It's like you're sitting back looking at you.
Right. And then it's like you become this salesperson and this advocate for, how to live a perfect life, and that's not what I'm saying at all.
So, as you said, we can get the book on Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Give us your website.
My website is www.dr for Dr. Shawmazing, so SHAWMAZING.
Shawmazing.com. I like that.
Because people mess up my name all the time, and especially when I'm just saying it and people don't have the time to write it, they're just listening. It's like, okay, you know what?
Yeah.
Even the spelling of my name,
yeah,
I spell all the time. So I said, I will make this simple. So www.drshawmazing.com.
Absolutely, and it's absolutely Miss Carter, Dr. Carter. You've worked for it. It's been I really enjoyed this. Before I let you go, plans for a new? You got the writing bug now?
Yes, you know what? I am working on another book. I want to talk about family because I have a blended family.
Right.
So I think that a lot of people, could stand to learn something about that.
I think so too.
Have interest in the topic.
Yeah. You know what's going to happen, don't you? You're going to end up motivational speaking. I mean, you're going to, because there's no way you can write in this genre and write about the stuff that you write that somebody sooner or later is going to ask you to be a keynote speaker or to start speaking. You got to.
Atmosphere. I love it. I mean, I do it for my job anyway.
Yeah.
I do it for someone else full time. I teach courses in my field. I talk to my colleagues. I write courses. I've written courses in my field. So yeah, why not?
Yeah,
why not
it's going to come. And with a Q&A, I can see it.
I received it. And then I just wanted to invite everyone to my book signing.
Go ahead.
So the book signing is this Saturday.
Yeah, the 20th.
The 20th, and it is at Barnes & Noble in Orland Park.
Whoa.
And it begins at noon. So from noon to about 2-3 o'clock.
See, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you just unpacked there. First of all, there's a physical bookstore. I've been over to Orland Park, and the fact that there's still a living, breathing Barnes & Noble gives us hope for those of us who love literacy, because it seems the bookstore is going the way of the dinosaur. You don't find them too much anymore. So God bless that. So you're in a Barnes & Noble signing. You're going to have a picture behind you and the big one sheet and all that kind of stuff.
Yes, so please come out and meet me, and I will hand sign your book. And then for those who are not able to come, like I said, you can go onto my website, and in the shipping instructions, for special instructions, if you put that you listen to me on the radio, I will still handwrite a message.
Oh, there you go. This has been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate you. I wish you all the luck in the world. And when you get on your second book and you become a little bit more famous, don't forget the little guy over here.
I will not. I've enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back,